Coming to you from the city that really is the greatest city in the world, I'm Matt Bailey, wishing you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, because it's the season finale of Ventriloquism Weekly. Hello everyone, again on this Monday, December 16th, to our first ever official season finale special. If you remember back in August, I flipped out on that one episode. Check it out, episode 9. I laugh at it every time I hear, because we would be off the air for 1 week, but today is our official season finale. After 25 weeks and 23 episodes of awesome Ventrilo interviews, and today is no different. Thank you so much for tuning in again. With a powerhouse guest and a very, very special announcement at the end of the show, we are ending this season with a bang. Our guest this week, I think, has been talked about more so than any other ventriloquist on this program. He's mentioned, I think, in almost all of the episodes. Also, and this part is truly humbling to me, he is one of the biggest supporters of this program. And even before Steve Petra first shared the efforts of this program with all of his friends, I had him in mind from day one, because I think we are all very, very curious to find out just exactly how that brain of his works. And a quick note about our interview with him: I was having some trouble with some mic levels, so sometimes you hear some clicking and it might be a little quieter, but everything still comes through loud and clear. And now, to find out what makes him tick, our interview with the incredible Steve Petra. Steve Petra, welcome to the program. Thank you for being with us.
Oh, it is my pleasure, Matt.
Oh, well, it's a pleasure to have you. So, I always like to begin at the beginning. We're going to just jump right in. How did you get started in ventriloquism?
It was sort of a roundabout affair. I worked as a musician a good part of my life, and when I married my wife Jeannie, she was a big Muppet aficionado, more than just a fan. So she had like books and tapes of background stuff and how things were done for those productions, and I started looking at them, and then I got obsessive about them, and that led me into puppetry. And then from puppetry, I got involved in ventriloquism.
Yeah. That's great. That is fantastic. You are regarded as one of the most inventive thinkers in this art form. And so I have to ask you, on behalf of all ventriloquists, this is going to sound quite funny, but I know this is on all ventriloquists' mind. How does your brain work?
I've had that question before. I'm still working on the answer. I have a clue, though. I figured out one thing. My brain seems to lack compartments that normal people have. And so everything's in one room.
Yeah.
So my brain is constantly in a process of connecting things. That's why if you have a conversation with me and we're seated at a table together, I might drift into 5, 6 different topics within 4 or 5 minutes.
Right.
It's not good for regular life, but it's great for making connections that make your productions, your performances relevant to different audiences.
That's great, because the follow-up question I was going to ask to kind of rein such a strange question in was, was there something in your growing up or something in the way that just, you think that allows these ideas to come through?
That could be the case. My childhood was I was an only child until I was 5, and my brother Tom came along when I was 5 years old. Those first 5 years, I was pretty much by myself with my own thoughts, my own ideas, and television.
Yeah.
Television has a bad rap, but I love television.
Yeah.
It was, and I was, I was born in the 50s, And the early television in New York was just filled with different types of puppetry experiments.
Yes.
They needed to fill time, and you had brilliant people like Sandy Becker and Chuck McCann, Paul Winchell, that were just doing things that they would never be allowed to do now with an audience.
Right. That's just. I feel like your generation of ventriloquists, that generation, you really grew up with kind of the golden age of this art form. It's just incredible. So, what was it like when you first got to meet those artists?
You meet them watching them?
Yeah. Yeah, we're introduced. I'm sorry.
For me, as a kid sitting in an apartment in Astoria, Queens,
Yeah.
it was very personal. It was like I was spending time with them, and that's how they really ran their broadcasts. I mean, I have friends now that knew Sandy Becker. I have a friend, Craig Marin, who Sandy Becker gave him all his puppets.
That's incredible.
So Alan Seamock is a partner with him as well, and so he knows all about that. And I've met Chuck McCann, who was mentored by Sandy Becker, and his devotion to puppetry is still ongoing in his later years. So these people were committed. They had passion. They had ideas. They cared about their audiences, and they cared about the art form.
So, when did you begin performing?
As a puppeteer?
Yes.
Not until my adulthood.
Really?
Yeah, because what happened was, those with all that input, I was into drawing and music. I was kind of sickly as a kid, so I would be surrounded by like a record player, a bunch of drawing pads, because my aunt worked for a paper factory, and television ideas and books. So I didn't find an outlet rather for my interest in puppetry, but I did find an outlet for music. So music was the first thing I started pursuing as a performance outlet.
Great. What was that? What would you do with that as a young child? What would you do? Would you perform at school? What were the beginnings of your performing?
Well, the first thing is to start a band, because unlike puppetry, you don't want to be doing it by yourself. Well, for some people, I guess. So, as an 11, 12-year-old, you start looking for other musicians, and then you start playing in your garage, in your backyard. You start irritating your neighbors.
Yes.
And then you start to weed out the people who you're involved with that are not serious, and get connected with people who are serious. And over the course of a few years, you're doing, dances and little events that are here and there, and then bigger school dances, and then you're playing in clubs, and then you're back on the street.
Yes.
Sitting on the curb.
So what was the shift? What was the shift from music to puppetry? Where did that come for you?
I was working. I was in my 30s. I was working in a wedding band, which actually people have a poor view of that. But this was a great band. It was 7 people that we really got along. Great musicians. So I was really having fun working with this band. It was very creative. And when I got married to Jeannie, I that Muppet stuff that she started showing me. So I started pursuing it by going to the library. I took out every book I could find on puppetry, and I started reading them. I found a couple that I was more interested in than the others, that had a little better educational content, instructional value. And some of the best ones were written by a woman who I found living right here on Long Island named Carol Fijan.
Oh, cool.
And I became her student.
That's great. What was the best thing she ever taught you?
She taught me that puppetry is theater.
Yeah.
So understanding that everything you do when you walk out on stage, whether it be as a puppeteer, as a hand puppeteer, as on television or event, walking before an audience, it's a theatrical performance, and the rules of theater apply.
They do. They certainly do,
And what the audience sees matters.
and you've carried that into your work today. That has stayed with you. Can you talk a little bit about how you build your shows around that philosophy?
Sure. Well, I have a different process for each thing I do, probably. But I do develop methods. If I have to do something every year, like a library show, I have to have a new library show every year. So I have a little template for a library show that I do, and I'll look to fill those slots. I have archetypes for the puppets, characters, and there'll be 4 of those, and they'll fill that slot. I'll have space for music that goes here and there. I'll have a finale that I know I have to do. But for some like my school shows, which are bigger events and a lot more complex, first thing I do is I look at the material I'm going to be doing the show about. First thing is to educate myself on the topic that I'm going to be representing with the art form. Like my biology show, Parts of the Body.
Yes.
I have a literacy show where we pin the punctuation on the lobster. And I have a money and math show. So I really need to understand the material that's going to be the content of the show, and then my brain will start to make the connections with characters. Like for the math show, we have Fractionstein, we've got the loan shark. We do equivalent fractions in a ventriloquist show.
That's incredible. How do you get away with it? How do you get away with it with the kids?
How do I get away with it?
Yeah, how do you get away with it with the kids? You really mask it with the comedy, right?
By the time we get to that part of the show, they're invested in the show. That's an important concept. I realized when I was walking through Disneyland that my shows are probably more than anything else, more like an amusement park ride.
Right.
Where there's a whole process where you get in, you get your seat, you don't know what's going to happen, you start to move, and things start to appear, and then all of a sudden you're engaged in different scenarios that are happening, and it's kind of like that where you introduce a level of engagement that progresses throughout the show, and then then you can do whatever you want. You still have to be entertaining, and for teachers you got to have content. But to me, it's a natural thing to connect the content and the entertainment. They're not two separate entities.
Absolutely. So, what's the main thing you look for when you're trying to connect them? What's the thing that you say, "Aha! This is how it'll become entertaining"?
I never know what it is until I see it. I mean, that's probably not a satisfactory answer, but it's an honest answer. I never know what I have to actually. I call it exploration. It's a stage of my process. When I have a mission, where here's a subject, I need something on this. This is what I have to end up with. So the first beginning of the process is exploration. I have to explore the material, and I have to see something that I will connect. I can't sit down at a word processor and just start writing out a show. I need to be pulling from all the different elements that already exist on the subject matter. And then the relevancy is built in.
That's great. And another thing you talk about, and I'll talk about this at the end of the episode when I wrap it, but your Let's Get Visual lecture where I think, was this, and correct me if I'm wrong, the Cadabra lecture that you did at the local chapter in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Was that the first time you'd ever done that lecture?
Exactly.
It was.
It was the first time.
Would have never known it. I just remember you saying something about it. It was incredible. And you talk about props and other things to the staging. So going back to your theater training with your mentor, how much of your show, I don't want to say is dependent upon, but how important is it for ventriloquists to have other elements other than just the puppet in the show?
Well, you see, that really depends. That's a matter of style and taste and philosophy. Because someone like Ken Groves, who I probably admire more than almost anyone, because I can't do what he does. Ken can walk in front of an audience with one puppet for 45 minutes.
Incredible.
And never run out of things to do. He doesn't need a prop. He doesn't need music cues. It's just him and the puppet. I mean, I genuflect before that.
Mm-hmm.
But I've come to realize that's not what I do. And my audiences have been coming back to see what I do. My clients keep hiring me to do what I do. So I've got to be devoted to what I do. And you know what? I work on developing those skills that he has.
That's yes. And
so you're going to be some kind of ventriloquist, and you're going to be some kind of performer. It may involve ventriloquism with magic, with music. Look at Terry Fader. And what did Terry say at the Vent Convention? Use what you have. Make it part of what you do. And look at his success.
Absolutely.
Did you see? What was his name? Taylor Mason.
Yes. Yes.
There's the living embodiment of what Terry said.
Exactly. And look what he's doing. He's bringing you into his ride. You're getting on the Taylor Mason ride. Yeah. And when the kids come to the school assemblies, they get on the Steve Petra ride. It's incredible.
They certainly do.
It's incredible to see.
And if I do it right, when the ride's over, they want to get back on.
Now, why school shows? Why educating through entertainment?
Because, my wife and I were working as puppeteers in a puppet stage. There was no ventriloquism. We had both studied with Carol, and let's see. I know what happened. She had gotten a call from a school that wanted puppeteers that could write a show for their character education syllabus.
Awesome. So
she said, the two people that I have with me that are best at writing are Steve and Jean. I'll connect you with them. So we met with the school. They had this very comprehensive character education program that they developed themselves, and there were a lot of things already existing at the time. So we sat down with them, and we distilled their ideas, made those connections like we discussed before. What connects with this? And we created a puppet show called Cave Town with Gruntburger the Caveman and Mr. Longarm and the Watermelon Bird. And we illustrated the elements of character education that they were teaching.
That's great. That was
our start. So we were actually commissioned into the school show environment.
Wow. And that's great. So, Steve, we have someone here who wanted to drop in and say hi, a very good friend of yours. Who is this?
Everybody now.
Platypus.
All together.
Platypus. Oh, great. Steve and Steve together again.
Hey, the way it should be. How are you, Steve? Doing good. How are you, Steve? Excellent.
Ah, wonderful. Well, the reason we have you two together is Mr. Axtell wanted to pop in and just say a word because we were talking earlier about the Let's Get Visual lecture, which you will be doing at CAX, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Or something completely different?
I'll be doing a new lecture at CAX, but there will be elements from Let's Get Visual which have expanded conceptually from doing that lecture.
Yes.
Fantastic.
So
great. We're so excited to have you, Steve, at CAX. Oh, it's going to be great.
In January. It's incredible. I'm jealous all the people get to go. But I'll be busy with school and yeah, I wish. I said, "Hey, Mom, Dad, Christmas present," but I don't know. So but yeah, Steve Petra, one of the things you are also known for is being like the biggest Axtell power user, at least in the States. I mean, what are you, neck and neck with Tony Borders or something? This is crazy.
Yeah, he's got, I think, 1 million. There's a guy in Greece who has 2 million. Oh, really?
That's great. That's great. What have and we're not just doing this because well, I guess because he is, but this is another question I wanted to get to. You are known specifically as an Axtel user and also of another user of another company, Pavlov's, both very colorful. Let's talk specifically about Axtel. What have those characters added to your shows that you do?
Well, my first introduction to Axel was this. I think it was called a chat racket. Is that Steve? Is that yeah, that's it. Uh-huh. And that first show that we described earlier, that Cave Town show.
Yes.
Jeannie and I had built a lot of the stuff for that, but when we saw that chat racket, we decided that should be in the show as the watermelon bird, and that was my introduction to an Axtel product. And then as I started having to develop library shows quickly, I can't build stuff that very efficiently for my own. Like I build my stuff for my body show and a lot of my school stuff, and I can't build stuff that looks realistic. My stuff is very abstract. So I said, this is going to be a resource that I'm going to use the rest of my life. Oh, cool.
That's incredible.
And you are a resource that I'm going to use the rest of my life. It's good to be used, isn't it?
It's incredible.
It's great to be used.
They certainly inspire creativity. So I'm excited about CAX. Anything new between the two of you for January?
Oh yeah, there's people coming from all over the world, from Scotland, from Germany, from Australia, all over the place, Canada, and we're really excited. We've got some new names have joined us. Gary Shelton, Silly Scott from the UK,
Wow.
Nathan Roberts,
Awesome.
going to be doing a lecture on sound. Steve Trash, of course, Kimmel and Tamar, Buster
Yes.
Balloon, Barry Mitchell, Steve Petra, Ken Scott,
Steve
Mike
Petra,
Beck,
who's that guy?
and,
I don't know. Yeah,
Jay Johnson.
Jay Johnson. Jay's incredible. He was one of the first interviews we ever did after convention, and that's fun. So I'm so thrilled for the both of you to be involved. And Steve Petra, last question for you with Axtel here to weigh in. What do you want to see from the vent community coming up?
I expect to see the unexpected.
Great
And
answer.
that may sound strange, but it's like Star Trek, you know. But instead we have the Starship Enterprise,
Yes.
and we have a continuing mission to explore the world, pursue new life forms. There we go.
Get these two together. I'm telling you, it's gonna be a hoot in January. If you're not going, you're missing something big. Let me tell you. Well,
Yeah, it's going to be amazing.
it's gonna be amazing. Well, with you two gentlemen, it's already exploding. But then to have the talent you have lined up, I
Bring your shorts and your suntan lotion as well.
yes,
It's an amazing place to be in January out here in Oxnard, California.
well,
Beautiful.
fantastic. Steve Petra, we will have you on again. Steve Axtel, you will be on again. Thank you for joining us for the season finale of Ventriloquism Weekly. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Our thanks again to Steve Petra and Steve Axtel for being a wonderful, wonderful surprise on our season finale. So much fun to talk to you both, and it was great to finally get to sit down and interview Steve Petra. Such a wonderful conversation. Now, the DVD is Let's Get Visual, and it's available from petrapuppets.com. petrapuppets.com. Also, after the interview, he messaged me and he asked me to let you guys know that a new DVD, Let's Get Visual, the lecture video, will be available at CAX. So that's great. So much great stuff is happening for Steve Petra, and I could not be more excited. And now I want to promise you, next season here on Ventriloquism Weekly is going to be bigger, better, and crazier than ever. And I have a very special announcement right now that'll prove it. Next month, can't believe I'm going to say this. This is crazy. Okay. Ventriloquism Weekly will be reporting live from CAX. Yes, I am so excited, and I want to thank everyone who is involved in getting me out there so that I could join in the craziness. Thank you so, so much. This is going to be a historic event. I have no clue what the sort of recording that we're going to do is going to look like. I know it's, as with everything with CAX, it's going to be unique, it's going to be original, and we're really, really going to try to capture the essence of this brand new type of convention. It's just going to be wonderful. So I will have all the details on our California adventure on our season premiere, January 27th. Now, this is before we head out because CAX starts on the 30th. So we're going to sit down, and by that time, I'll be able to hopefully be able to fill you in a bit more on what that will look like. But mark your calendars, we premiere January 27th. And let me tell you, our goal for next season is a great man once said, you just got to build and build, make everything you do bigger and better than the last. So I promise you, I'm working on those ideas right now of what is just going to make next season incredible here at Ventriloquism Weekly. And it looks like we've come to the end of our road for this week and this season. I want to thank you for letting me through your speakers over the last half year. It's been an incredible adventure, an incredible journey, and I cannot wait to resume Talking for Two in January. In our absence, please don't be afraid to contact us. Send in your ideas for next season. Let me know what you want to hear, who you want to hear from, the questions you want me to ask. Reach out by emailing ventriloquismweekly@gmail.com. I get and answer all the emails personally. I have no staff. I just plug a microphone into the computer and let it rip. So please, please, please email in. Let me know what you want to hear. Join and post in our Facebook group, Ventriloquism Weekly Podcast for Ventriloquists. I have so much fun on our Facebook group. It's just a great place to be. If you're not there already, ask to join, and I or one of the other members will add you because it's so much fun, really. And that truly is it for this season of Ventriloquism Weekly. I thank you. I am humbled by you. And I look forward to meeting again. If you would have told me back in June that this program would take me to California next month, I'd have said, no, it wouldn't. So that's it. Thank you so much. Until January, for Ventriloquism Weekly, I'm Matt Bailey, reminding all you vents out there to keep talking for two.
It's all together now, we're all in this forever. We'll find a way, a better day, we'll ride the stormy weather.